Greetings, MacNNers. It's time once again for your favorite podcast and mine, the MacNN Podcast. That's right, episode 44. Here we go. Welcome back, MacNNers. Apparently last week it was all, oh yeah, and this week it's all, here we go. Yay, boo-boo. I'm smarter than the average bear.
Oh my God, stop.
It's always something.
Oh.
It's Friday, December 11th, and that means it's time for another recording session with managing editor Mike. Yay!
Greetings. Are your arms flailing in the air like Kermit there?
It does. I really am like flailing, wacky, inflatable arms guy. I mostly am. It's true. We have some great stuff to talk about tonight. Lots of cool topics that have happened, but I got to start off with the thing that has me the most excited, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the world of Apple or Mac or MacNN or anything. It's just a great personal triumph. Way back when, a million years ago, I was one of the first reporters to do a very large feature piece on a little show out of Eden Prairie, Minnesota called Mystery Science Theater 3000. Now, I didn't get in right on the ground floor when they were a public access show, but I happened to find out that they'd just been signed to, I think it was called Comedy Central at the time.
Comedy Channel. It was the Comedy Channel.
It was the Comedy Channel.
It was Comedy Channel.
You're right. And the Comedy Channel had just signed them, and I was working for a newspaper in Orlando, and so I got an assignment to call them up, and we had the most delightful, hour-long conversation. And I had seen, they sent me some tapes, and I saw a couple of episodes, and I just laughed and laughed and laughed, and I was just sure that this was going to be a huge hit. Of course, it ended up being so, but I was very pleased about it. They were so happy with the piece that I eventually produced that they actually put it in their press kit for a while. And so I am pleased to announce that thanks to a successful Kickstarter campaign, Mystery Science Theater 3000 will soon be on the air again. I'm so pleased about this. Now, there's no network yet or anything like that. Hopefully that'll follow. But they have raised the money, $5.5 or $5.9 million.
Oh, they did break the 5.5.
They did. So we have 12 episodes and a holiday special. I was already excited about this just because Joel Hodgson was behind it, even though he's not going to be hosting the show. They've got a new host and a new cast. But Patton Oswalt is going to play the son of TV's Frank. Shut up and take my money. It was my reaction at that point. And I was one of the people who contributed a tiny amount of money to this massive scale. But I am really so pleased, and I'm sure Joel must be thrilled, that they were able to raise all the money they needed to do a full 12-episode season, and they're actually going to do a bonus episode. So this is just getting better and better. It's nerd news, but this is one of the rare occasions where I think it's so significant that it was worth mentioning on the podcast. Go get them, Joel.
Speaking of nerd news, I just want to address that the Off-Topic podcast is going to be rejiggered a little bit and will return in January.
Oh, okay. They didn't have enough jiggers?
Oh, no, I guess not.
Apparently not. Needs some more, or at least different ones. All right. Well, very good. Speaking of which, Malcolm Owen of the One More Thing podcast will be dropping by a little bit later on to talk about his gift guide for Mac switchers. That's exciting. So we're going to take a look at that too. But first, let's get on to our usual Apple and MacNN sort of news. And let's start off with the thing that has generated an unconscionable amount of discussion for what it was. So, music. The Apple Smart Battery Case. What? I mean, Apple puts out a battery case. It was a surprise. I'll give them that.
I know. Just here it is. Just one day. Bam.
Bam. There it is. And yes, I agree with John Gruber on this one. It looks like an iPod Touch is about to burst out of its chest cavity, a la Alien. I know, but it's gotten an awful lot of flack. It's interesting to me for two reasons. First of all, this really does underscore how important design is to Mac users, Apple users, and yet it's not something they usually spend a great deal of time talking about. It's just sort of a part of the whole experience, and it's just a given. The service, the quality, that sort of thing usually gets talked about a lot more. But design does play a role, and you can see this when Apple puts what a lot of people feel is a foot wrong all of a sudden it's suddenly much more important than it has been lately. That's interesting to me. And then the other thing that has fascinated me about this is for years, almost since the iPhone came out, there have been people who use it so much and love it so much that over the course of the day, they have trouble keeping it fully charged, or at least, substantially charged enough that they're not worried about it. And that's the thing, right? Very few people actually get down to zero, but a lot of people get dangerously low by the end of the day, and they just don't feel like, I can't make the commute home without this thing running out of power. So I get that. And so they're all like, Apple should make these things a little thicker and have more battery in them. You said this last week.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. If Apple decided to restore it back to iPhone 5C thickness and give us a boosted battery in there, I'd be fine with that.
Now, I haven't done the exact measurements or anything. So Apple is essentially saying, all right, here's sufficient battery you should be able to get 2 days off of this because this is on almost complete full other charge.
Yeah.
And what is the number one complaint about this thing? It's lumpy. It's thick. It's thick and heavy.
I like what the Mophie cases are capable of, but I do not care for the huge amount of additional girth that it puts on the phones.
But this is physics. You're always arguing this as well. Yeah. This is physics. If you want a battery that's double the capacity,
it's going to be double the volume
and double the weight.
There's no escaping it.
Right, exactly. So I cannot fault the Apple Smart Battery case for that. Yes, it looks a little odd, but Apple's argument here, and I don't know how much I want to buy into this, but Apple's argument is, but you're not supposed to wear this thing all the time. It's to put on when you're going away and you're not going to be near a power outlet for a while, like on a hike. It's not for everyday use. And my rebuttal to that is at $99, I'm putting it on every day. I'm not buying 57 cases for my phone, or not even 3. I'm getting 1. So if I'm getting a battery case at all, and you want me to pick yours, then I want something that I'm going to feel comfortable holding all the time. Yes, Apple has designed this thing to make it very easy to get it out of the case. And as someone who usually buys dollar store or otherwise super cheap cases for my phones, I confess, it is quite comical, sort of like one of those Peter Sellers movies, to watch me try and remove one of these cases on the rare occasions that I want to clean the entire screen, right? So yeah, Tim Cook has a point on that front. The idea that this case is easily removable is a selling point for me, but there's a lot of 2-piece cases and even 2-piece battery cases, that are easily removable as well. So I'm not sure he's got a great point there.
I'm going to reiterate the statement I made in the comments of the article. This is another example of it not being for us. This is not for us. We can tweak our battery life. We can turn off Bluetooth. We can do all these things. We can shut down background notifications to stretch out our phones a day or longer. Yeah. We know how to do that. But the example I gave was a 19-year-old college student who doesn't care how many Facebook notifications she gets on her lock screen.
Yeah, I think you made an excellent point there, that there is a certain class of people who just want their devices to run forever, regardless of what they do with them. And if they don't, it's very disappointing, or at least, a very, very long day.
Much of the tech press was complaining, but, I can't choose where I'm going to drain from first. There's no toggle switch to charge something first.
Yeah.
Missing the point. This is a battery case as an appliance.
Yeah.
This is plug it in and it works. And that's what they've done here.
Now, Sanjeev wrote about this, and he's decided to keep his, even though, just like William, for once our staff is in entire agreement, and the agreement is, fugly.
It's not pretty, but it doesn't have to be.
No, it certainly doesn't have to be. It's just odd, something ugly from Apple, I guess. But anyway, Sanjeev was like, what's this? But, it's won him over, is the bottom line, because it's not going to be his everyday case.
Yeah, he wasn't even the assigned reviewer. He bought this on his own dime.
Right.
And he felt strongly enough about it that he wrote his own editorial on it. I didn't ask for 2 different guys to do the reviews on this. He just felt strongly enough that he had to talk about it.
Yeah. But he brought up an excellent point that I have not seen basically anyone else bring up. And that is that the headphone jack has to be as thin as the EarPods one in order to navigate through that case, because the case, like a lot of battery cases, this is not unique to Apple's, but the battery case adds depth to the bottom of the phone.
That's an oversight. With the iPhone 5 shipped, there was a game case that we reviewed from it by Logitech, and it had a similar issue where it added some distance on that side of the case. But what it had a little extender that you put the case on, you shove the extender in there to the headphone jack, and now your headphone jack is flush with the outside of the case. I'm kind of surprised that Apple didn't do that.
Yeah, luckily for me, my favorite headphones that I use are the Blue Mofis, and they already came with an extraordinarily long plug. I was not sure at the time why, but it's actually because of of the design of the headphones. But luckily, I don't think that is going to be an issue with this case. And of course, Bluetooth, which we talked about last week, Bluetooth headphones won't be an issue with this because there is no cord. So I'm not sure if it's too much of an oversight or if Apple deliberately thought, we do ship headphones that work with this. So tough.
Yeah.
But it probably was an oversight because some of the Beats headphones, which Apple owns, won't work with it without an extender. So
right.
You would think they would have at least included an extender. I think they really should consider that. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting to me that one design misstep, some of the comments I've heard are like, well, Johnny Ive is clearly not handling the day-to-day design.
No.
That sort of thing. I think the intention here was to make it as utilitarian as possible. I honestly think that was the intention. And I have to say, although I don't own one myself, I think I would really like the tight integration with the OS. I like that there aren't indicator lights on the outside of the case, that it reports the battery just alongside the iPhone battery. And speaking for myself...
the indicator light is on the inside of the case. And
nice.
And yes and no, but it's in there and you can charge this independently of the phone. It doesn't need to be plugged into the phone to charge it.
Well, that's what I was saying is that when the phone's not in it, you can see how it's charging.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think a lot of people overlook, and that really caught my eye in the description, was that it has a passive antenna pass-through, essentially. In other words, unlike some other battery cases, this one will not cut down on your call reception.
Nah, I don't think the other cases do either.
Well, that sounds like a job for MacNN Labs testing.
I suppose.
And MacNN Labs testing is mostly just Mike.
Yeah, generally.
But anyway, we'll see how it works out. I have to say, though, I think it's overpriced.
I don't think so. I think it's priced where Apple wants it exactly. And
I don't know.
And it will sell enough to justify. And if you complain to Apple and say, well, why is this $99? I get a Mophie for $79. They'll say, well, buy the damn Mophie.
It's not like they don't care about that. They're not trying to be number one in battery cases for the iPhone.
They're going to sell 1 million of these things, and all the other case companies are going to cry. I mean, that's how this is going to go.
The interesting thing, though, is I am currently testing some external batteries for iPhone charging. As a user in a typical day-to-day situation, I don't need them. But I have been doing a lot of traveling lately, and traveling is where these things really shine.
Yeah.
But there's basically two options. An integrated case that semi-permanently adds bulk to your iPhone, but charges the battery almost mindlessly. You'll just automatically. Or you can carry around like an Anker E7 or something like that, a brick, essentially, of varying sizes that you have to put in your duffel bag or somewhere. And it'll do a great job of charging it. And some of the bigger ones will charge it multiple times, but it's a brick that you have to carry around.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to get my hands on one of these things so I can test it and see which method I actually prefer. I have a feeling that the rather light battery that Apple put in this thing will probably suit my personal needs better, but I am well aware of users who need as many recharges off a fuel cell as possible, and if they could get a small solar plant or nuclear plant in their briefcase, they would put it in there. They run through it because they never think to plug it in.
Huh.
Next up, update day. Holy cow, Apple, do you have to do this all at once?
I know, just stretch this out a little bit.
Yeah, really.
Multiple days, less server load. Everyone will be happy.
Yeah, there's really not much to say about this other than, dear Tim, because we know you listen to the podcast.
Well, to be fair, iTunes came out today.
Yes, they did break out iTunes separately, but this was such a minor update that it's not one of those urgent things.
Yeah.
But every single OS that Apple makes updated all more or less at the same time. They kind of staggered out the rollout a little bit on their end. Like, for example, up here in Canada, we didn't see it until the afternoon. Some people saw it that morning. But no, this isn't good enough. No. Look, you've got 4 OSs. Come up with one more, and then you can issue one each day of the week. Okay? It's fine. Really. We'll have Mac OS Monday. We'll have iOS Tuesday. We'll have tvOS Thursday.
There you go.
We'll have what's the other one? watchOS Wednesday.
watchOS Wednesday. There you go.
So now we need a 5th OS. But other than that, We've got it all sorted out there, Apple, for you. And really, as you say, users would be happier, I think. Your servers would be happier. It just seems like they deliberately take on a lot. And I understand the symmetry, the nice symmetry of having it all come out the same day. The betas generally come out within the same day. But even there, sometimes some will come out on Tuesday and some on Wednesday. So, feel free to stagger that out a bit more. That's what we're saying. Because we're not just saying this because we're lazy reporters, like we're furiously typing away, Mac OS 10 has been updated, everybody to your desk. And then, wait, iOS is out, oh no!
But that is exactly what we do.
Yeah. It is a little like the backstage at the Muppet Show, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
And so then, it's incoming! tvOS! What? Oh no. And of course, not only are we writing about these things and finding out what the changes are and stuff like they're trying to, because Apple doesn't usually tell us very often.
Bug fixes and performance improvements. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, there's only so many ways you could say that. But then on top of that, we're installing it because we have to test it to find out what's changed.
Yep.
Speaking of which, Mike.
Yes?
Which ones of those did you update?
Well, as I do not have a watch, I did not do the Watch OS, but I did the...
I can cover that for you.
I did the other three. I'm not seeing significant changes in anything. The iTunes today did something with classical music and Apple Music, which I cannot discern. I have no idea exactly what they changed. I mean, I can read the patch log and I see, hey, change how you sort classical music, but I can't see it.
I think what that amounts to, it seems to me, is that they made it easier to discover a particular work by composer or by the symphony that performed it rather than the rock agenda, which is usually performer and almost never songwriter.
So what you're saying is they changed the tags on classical music.
I don't think they changed them. I think they changed the discovery of them to be easier to find that way.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So that happened. The tvOS, I do have the 4th gen Apple TV, and I did patch it, and I have no idea what's different. I wasn't having any problems. What I am finding with the new Apple TV, it is a little finicky with older versions of iTunes and the OS 10, where my 3rd gens will stream no problem from my El Capitan server and a backup server I have in-house running Lion. The 4th gen kind of likes the Lion server to be a little fresher rebooted. If it's gone a few days without having rebooted the OS 10 Lion server, then it's a little crabby about it.
Ah, interesting.
So I'm not sure which is which. I'm not sure if it's iTunes having the problem. I'm not sure if it's the Apple TV having the problem. But that's not new. That's something that I've just been experiencing.
I see.
And as far as the iOS goes, it's the iOS. And if you look at the changelog, there are like 50 security fixes.
Yeah, that was the really important part of that update. But I have noticed a few little tweaks and in performance improvements. Mail on Mac OS 10 seems to be quicker. This could just be a perception issue, but I thought that the browser got a bit snappier. There was an ongoing issue that was particular to me. Nobody else in the world had it. But I just recently finished doing a whole bunch of traveling, and when I got home, every time I would click on the MacNN homepage, a Boingo hotspot would try to load.
What?
Yeah, a Boingo hotspot would try to load because the last time I connected to MacNN while I was on the plane, I used a Boingo hotspot. And so somehow that bookmark got, nope, go to Boingo first never mind. I'm not going to share my opinion about Boingo. Never mind. I like Oingo Boingo. I love Oingo Boingo.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. Anyway, update, and that issue is gone.
Good.
So, yay, Apple. That seems like an awfully specific thing to fix, Apple, but I'm glad you did.
Sounds like you got a cache flushed out.
Yeah, it must have been. That sort of thing generally does pretty well. I'm about at the stage now, and I think I've made up my mind that next year's OS, whatever that's going to be called, Big Sur, that's my bet, Big Sur.
Big Sur.
Yeah.
Okay.
So write it down. That's what I think it's
You
going to be.
heard it here first.
OS 10.13? No, whatever it is. Big Sur. Anyway, I think that one I'm going to do a complete clean install. It's about that time. I've been patching or just doing the update releases like most people do. I went all the way through the Yosemite betas and Yosemite itself and all the updates for Yosemite. And then I did the betas for El Capitan and then El Capitan itself. And now all the betas of El Capitan. And you know what? I think it's time.
See, that's why it's good to be the king. I can tell other people to do the beta installs on their hardware and I don't have to do it on mine.
Well, it's not that I'm getting any weird problems that nobody else is getting except for that one. But I generally give people the advice that every few years you should do a nice clean install.
Yeah.
In fact, you should clone your hard drive, test the clone, zero out your boot drive, then clone back and, go from there. I usually do that around the time of an OS reinstall. It has the effect of defragmenting, sort of, but also blocking out bad blocks. And, it's just generally I think it's a good idea. You don't have to do it every time. Every 2 or 3 years. Plenty.
Well, with SSDs, there is 0 point to defragmentation.
That's true, and a very good point. This is my first year with all SSD, so
good for you.
That strategy is going to have
good for you. You gave me no end of crap when I reviewed an SSD. 3 years ago?
I was a strong holdout because I didn't think the value proposition was quite right. But when it became right, and I jumped on it. Now I'm a total convert.
When they sent us the SSD for review 3 years ago, it was a $700 SSD.
I know.
So, prices will come down a bit more, but I'm not convinced they're going to come down a lot more soon.
No, I don't think so. I jumped on, thanks to MacNN deals, I should point out. And I ain't just saying that either. I managed to jump on a 1 terabyte SSD from Mushkin, because I just love that name. Mushkin, do you make SSDs? Yes, we do. So I got a Mushkin 1 terabyte SSD for $240.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen one quite that low yet.
Hasn't been one since.
All right.
They are getting there, but
they're getting close. But I'm perfectly happy with this. I still have a hard drive, an external Western Digital MyBook hard drive, a 3 terabyte model that I still haven't seen for as little as I paid for it. So I love MacNN. I really do.
No, you don't. You complain to me about them all the time. Oh, Christ, you found something else cheap that I want.
Yeah. Well, you guys are breaking me, but yes. It's a fantastic place. And particularly, this sort of leads me into our next topic very nicely. So let's do the music.
Let's do it.
Apple Watch prices to go crazy.
There's a lot of projections about this. People are talking about, these sales mean there's a new version right around the corner. Well, duh. Of course there's a new version right around the corner.
Oh, there's always a new version around the corner.
Consumer electronics, there's always a new version right around the corner.
But
it's also the holiday season, and I think that's got more to do with it than clearing the shelves for an impending Apple Watch launch.
Yeah, Best Buy has been discounting MacBook Pros for quite a while now, and they're still doing it now. In fact, they've gone nuts. They're taking like $300 off the price now. But that does not mean that there's a new MacBook Pro out tomorrow or the day after Christmas or anything or anytime soon, I don't think. We might see something in the spring. But first of all, I don't think there's going to be a hardware Apple Watch 2 in the near future. I've been famously wrong about some of these things, but I really don't think so.
I think there is. I think we're going to see one. I think he's going to talk about it in March or April, and I think we'll see it for the fall.
Maybe. Yeah, next fall? Okay, that might...
I think the case is going to be exactly the same. I think the bands are going to be exactly the same. I think the internals will be slightly different.
Oh, yes. Well, maybe something like that. But I don't think it's going to be the revolutionary half the thinness and, all that sort of thing.
It's not going to be anything like that.
Or maybe we'll get some new material like the titanium watch or the platinum watch.
Physics.
Yeah.
Physics. It's still battery.
Yeah, it's still all about battery. But I don't think it's going to be anything that will immediately make all current Apple Watch owners go, oh.
No, I don't think so either.
Suckered again.
No, yeah, I don't think so either.
I'm super pleased with mine, and I've discovered many more things that I can do with it now. Plus, I have to tell you, I'm much more Pavlovian than I realized I was, because these little rings, they make me do things.
That's the point.
Yeah, I know. But it works. I figured dumb people will fall for that. Not us smart guys. We can outsmart it. Nope. I have to close that little ring as often as possible. My blue ring at this moment is almost closed. And as soon as we're done with this podcast, out the door I go. Like there's going to be a piece of cheese at the end of the hall. Oh, it's weird.
Which is another bar,
Anyway, let me get back to the Apple Watch. So it started off the way that we normally see Apple products get discounted for Christmas, which is, we'll take some money off, but it's going to be in the form of a gift card. And that's not bad if you happen to be a Target shopper.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're a Target Red Card holder, you'll also get another 5% off, so that's even better.
Yep.
I think Best Buy quickly followed suit, and so did B&H Photo and a couple of other places. But now it's like, no, we're cutting the price. We'll cut the price. So you can get $100 off. That means that the Apple Sport Watch starts at about $250 at Best Buy.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Obviously Apple's okay with this, but I really think somebody somewhere is super determined that by God, the Apple Watch is going to be the best-selling Christmas gift this year if it kills them. And that someone might be Tim Cook.
This is a change from how things used to be.
Yeah.
As recently as 2004, we'd get price lists when we'd work and say, this is how much it's going to cost you to buy one to sell, and you will sell it for this price.
Yes.
Or we're coming for you. We're going to take your license away.
Yes, you can discount it as much as $5.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's on a top-of-the-line G5 or whatever.
Yep,
it was.
that's it.
You can take $5 off like Mac Mall.
So this discounting is a new thing within the last couple of years.
And we're not just talking about the Apple Watch. As I mentioned earlier, you can get $300 off an iMac at Best Buy, I believe it is. And other retailers are also discounting these things in other ways, very often matching those kinds of levels. But this is a big blowout Christmas for Apple. I mean, technically it's their fiscal first quarter for 2016. So apparently they want to show investors that they can sell more than just the iPhone. And this is, I think, going to be very successful for them. What else can I say?
This is going to be a big quarter for Apple.
Yeah.
The last quarter just had a couple of days of iPhone 6 Plus sales, or 6S sales, excuse me. The iPad Pro, the Apple TV, the holiday season. This is going to be a stunning season.
Yeah, it's just going to be a stunning season. And of course, as a result of that logic, which everyone can see, the stock went down like $3 today.
Well, everybody's stocks went down like $3 today. Today was just a rough day on the stock market.
Just a rough day on the stock market. Okay, well, I feel a little better then. But if Apple doesn't see some kind of stock catapult as a result of this when they finally reported in January, I will be suspicious.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah, the fix is in, I tell you. But really, I mean, the stock is criminally undervalued at the moment and should be quite a bit higher. And if Christmas goes by and they don't, and Amazon has a higher percentage jump on the stock like it did last quarter than Apple did, there's just something wrong with this world.
Looking at the prices Amazon is selling stuff for this Christmas season, I can't imagine that they're going to be posting a profit worth a damn.
No. In fact, do they ever? Well, they usually squeak out a tiny profit.
Lately, they've been squeaking out the minorest of profits.
Yeah. But speaking of that, I can't let this go by. Amazon 25% off any book you want, a physical printed book.
Oh, I know. It's a fantastic deal. Up to $10 savings.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't be buying your $100, $5 volume tome of
Lord
Star
of the
Trek's
Rings
history or anything like that for, you'll get $10 off it, not $25.
Now, we also just recently ran a report from Horace Dediu, I think his name is. So I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it, sir. Horace has come up with a prediction, and he believes that the average selling price of the Apple Watch is around $400, which means that, 80% of people buying them are getting the sport watch.
Yeah.
But I don't think this bothers Apple at all.
I don't think so either. I think they knew this, and I think it was how it was going to be. I think they knew that the average selling price was going to be in the low-end models, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, especially at $250, I believe it is a fantastic value. I think I've said this on the podcast before, but when I first got the Apple Watch, I felt like, the selling price here in Canada was $500 for the base model because our dollar is worthless. And so I was like, is this worth 500 Canadian dollars? We'll see, I guess. But I feel like this thing has contributed to better health. I can't say that I've lost a lot of weight, but I have lost a few pounds, and I can't put it directly on the Apple Watch. I can put it on trying to get those rings to close. That's what I can put it on. So in a way, I suppose the Apple Watch is helping. But more importantly, I just find lots of other things that I can do with it. I find, for example, that messages from work are much easier to deal with on the watch. I was at a concert last night, and there happened to be a section where they'd stopped playing, and there was a brief interlude while they were retuning their instruments. And I had a moment where I could dictate a quick, quiet, very quiet reply to a message that was important and needed a reply. But I didn't want to step out in the lobby with my iPhone, but I could just gently lift this up to my wrist and say, I'm in a concert, I'll call you right back. And took care of it. It was so much more elegant than trying to deal with it on the iPhone. That is just one of many things that I get to do. And of course, I'm going broke using Apple Pay everywhere. I love that part. It's the best.
I'm not going to get one until I can wear the face on the inside like Captain Kirk did in the motion picture with his communicator.
Fair enough. This does feel a little Star Trek on my wrist, I have to say.
I can see where it would.
Yeah. And tonight, I was using it to control a Bluetooth speaker. What? This is the future.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's great. So the bottom line here is that if you were thinking, if you were toying, if you were contemplating buying an Apple Watch, for God's sakes, right now.
Yeah, I know. Do it before Christmas.
Right now. And for that matter, even if Apple is planning to refresh the MacBook Pros in the spring, as the rumor goes, I would still get one now. $300 off? That's insane.
Yeah, that's a pretty compelling price.
iMac, $300 off? Oh, are you nuts? These are just the kinds of discounts we don't normally see. And particularly for things that we don't think are going to be changed in January or February, we think this is jump out and get it.
Yeah, don't forget, Apple doesn't do January events anymore.
Right. Oh, now you made me miss Macworld. Oh, how I miss Macworld. Anyway, the other thing I found interesting was that one of the reports at this new Glance Wearables conference that Horace was speaking at was that their findings were that 82% of Apple Watch owners were planning to buy another one as a gift to somebody else.
Oh.
This was even higher than a recent Reuters and Ipsos poll that showed that about 62% were planning on doing the same. To me, take either one of those figures you like, but to me this speaks very highly of how much Apple owners like their watch. I certainly feel this way.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, at $250, I may very well order a couple from down in the States, to send out to people.
Say what, installed spares? I mean, what are you doing?
No, because I want to share the joy. The Apple Watch is not for everybody. If you've never heard your friend say a word about it, probably don't buy them one. But
yeah, they can probably pass.
Or if you just think, he could use to lose a few pounds, don't send them an Apple Watch. That's not cool, man. But if you know someone who has been expressing that they want one, now's the time, I think. It will make them super happy. I went into this skeptical about that it was really worth the full price of what it cost. But as it turns out, I feel like now that I've had it for a while, yes, it was. The other thing that I think is interesting, and this wasn't covered in the article, but I have a feeling that when a hardware Apple Watch 2 actually emerges, which I think is a couple years off, but no matter how wrong I am, when that happens, I think a lot of people who have had the Sport Watch and really enjoyed it will go, you know what? I'm going to step up to that stainless steel. Yeah.
Okay.
I really think that people are setting themselves up for that.
Okay.
It's not that it does anything more than the Sport version does, but it's just a reflection of how much they've enjoyed the product. People are willing to pay more for a product they know they're going to enjoy.
Yeah.
There you go.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people talk about entertainment in dollars per hour, and I'm not sure that that's a fair metric.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Apple Watch is something that you live with for, how many hours you have it on your wrist today, Charles?
Literally from the moment I get up until the moment I go to bed, it is on my wrist.
So if you count that as a metric, then your Apple Watch is already probably less than $1 an hour.
Oh, much less. And I certainly, just in the terms of, like, I'm in the middle of an airport and I'm dragging luggage around and somebody messages me, I don't have to stop, fish out my phone, blah, blah, blah. I can just quickly answer the message. I know I talked about this, but it is so handy. And when you feel that tap on your wrist as Maps tells you which way to turn, it's just, I love it.
Yeah, and William echoes your praises.
Yeah, yeah.
So
the other thing I should mention, just for the record, I have worn this Apple Watch all day today. I've moved around. I've been different places. I've run errands. I've done all my usual activities, and I still have 76% battery.
There you go.
Speaking of battery complaints, maybe we have them on the phones, but I never have them on the watch. I usually wait an extra day, before charging it.
Okay.
So anyway, buy an Apple Watch is what we're saying. Bottom line, there you go. We're not being paid to say it. We're just saying it. One last thing about it, and then I'll let go, is Horace said that he predicts that the first full year, which I believe will come around in April, or maybe sometime, because it was hard to get at first, so maybe we're talking about all the way the April quarter into June. Maybe by then, he believes Apple will sell 21 million of them.
Wow.
Now, this sounds like a lot, but it's just a little over 4 million a quarter. And one of those quarters is the Christmas quarter, where they are bound, especially at these prices, they are bound to sell 8 million. So if it's been averaging 4 million a quarter, I think they're going to make that number. Horace has been somebody who really studies the numbers carefully. He's not going on some sources that he might have in a Chinese factory somewhere. He's looked at the numbers and charted the trends and done the math. So I have a feeling he's about right. Give or take 1 million. I think he's on target.
What's 1 million,
At that same conference, hang on. At that same conference, there was another guy who I will not name because he's going to look so stupid later. And he said that Apple's going to sell 100 million of them in a year further, by the end of the second full year of sales. 100 million.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
That seems a little excessive to me.
To be fair, I might have misinterpreted that he meant all smartwatches, and I still don't think so. Because the Apple Watch is 80% of the smartwatch market.
Yeah.
And so that would mean that Apple would sell 80 million of those. And
did anyone generally not think that's what was going to happen?
Well, I always felt like it would do reasonably well, but it was never going to be the next iPhone. And I don't know, the pundits that thought it was or are disappointed at a business that sells 4 million anything in 3 months. They just have a very unrealistic grip on reality.
No.
I know. Really. These numbers come out of a very dark place, located in the rear of their pants.
Yeah.
That's the problem. All right. Speaking of things that we all sort of go, what about? Next up, Walmart Pay. That's what you were waiting for.
Inevitable. It was inevitable. It was inevitable. Come on. You knew it was inevitable.
Listen, I don't like to generalize about Walmart customers because really, truthfully, all walks of life shop at Walmart. Except people with a conscience. Never mind. Sorry. Just ignore that. But I have this feeling, call me naive, but I have this feeling that Walmart Pay, which involves you holding up your phone and a QR reader reads a code on your phone and then lots of things click and whir and eventually you get a sale. I just don't think this is going to work out.
No, I don't think so either.
About as well as their music service did. Let's put it that way.
I think that process takes longer than swiping your card and putting in your PIN.
I have, interestingly, an experience with this because I am often at Starbucks, not all the time, but I am often at Starbucks, often enough that I eventually capitulated and got their little virtual card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, right.
Not the physical gift card, but the virtual one that I can use on Wallet, and I can also use it in the app. And that's how their system works, is I go into a Starbucks, I order what I want. This literally takes long enough that they can actually make the order. But I then pull out my phone, open up either Wallet or the Starbucks app itself, check the balance, make sure it's covered, right? And then I have to show a little code on the phone to a scanner, which then scans it. And yes, the scan only takes a moment, and then it's paid for. But that's a lot of extra work.
Yeah.
Whereas before I started using the virtual card, I would just double click the button on my watch and go boop, and I was done. Apple Pay much faster. So I think that consumers who have an opportunity to see both of them in action are always going to pick Apple Pay if they can. And perhaps Google Pay or Android Pay if their systems are as fast as Apple Pays. But this scanning the QR code thing with the scanner, it's a lot of extra business. It doesn't always work, oddly enough. And it's just a hassle. It's a silly way of paying. It's actually just as fast to pull out your bank card, which I hardly ever do anymore. That's nice. But Walmart Pay, come on. Here's the interesting part of this. Why? Why would Walmart do this? I mean, their customers are not known for being the most technically savvy. So this is probably not a system that will even get used very often in Walmart stores. Why are they doing this? Oh, wait a minute. Who was the founding member of the conglomerate of merchants that made up Current C?
There you go.
It was Walmart.
There's your answer.
And Best Buy, who have since bailed. But yeah, it was Walmart. That's right. And so the bottom line here, and this is true of Starbucks too, is that these other systems, I'm excluding Google Pay and Android Pay because I don't know about those, but these other merchant-driven systems like Current C, the reason they're not taking Apple Pay or don't want it or resistant to Apple Pay is because they don't get the customer information that they really want.
Yeah. With the currency system, there's a lot of data being swapped back and forth.
Well, that was the worst part of it. When the currency system was laid out to us, it was all, not only did your use of it bring tons of financial and personal information into the merchant's control, but then they all pooled it with each other.
Yeah.
And that's not going to get hacked or stolen. Sure. It just seems like, you would think that looking at Apple Pay, people who design Walmart Pay would just go, oh yeah, never mind. But they didn't. So I'm warning you now. You don't want to go there. Next up, the gift guide. Yes, we've been doing gift guides right the way through for the last month or so. All kinds of different topics, all kinds of different gift suggestions for that person in your life, the writer the traveler, the grump, whoever it is. And the latest one I wanted to call attention to is what I thought was a genius one. The MacNN gift guide, present ideas for the Mac switcher. Now see, most of us are Mac veterans over here, so we would never have thought of any of this. But good old Malcolm Owen, yay, who is himself a Mac, well, returnee is more accurate to say, but for the sake of argument, we'll call it a switcher. So he now has both PC systems and Mac systems in his underground evil laboratory. And he came up with a list of things that would be useful for specifically people who are either because of Christmas or just before Christmas have made the jump into not just random Apple products like an iPhone, but specifically the Mac. So Malcolm, tell us a little bit about the list that you came up with and what was some of the motivation behind it.
Just to be clear here, when you're talking about someone who's switching from a PC to a Mac, if you think about it, there's not really as much as you would think you'd need to provide them to do it. It depends on how they switch. If you
involuntarily or voluntarily?
No, not that way. It's more a case of if they're switching to a MacBook or to a Mac Mini, or if they've got a rich relative who wants to smash out and get them a Mac Pro. Yes.
I wish I had some of those relatives.
And if I had relatives like that, I would be wanting them to do that as well.
Yeah. The best thing would be that if one of us got a Mac Pro, that means that Apple would bring out a new Mac Pro within like 6 weeks.
Well, to be fair, if I got a Mac Pro, the entire product line will shut down. Come on, I have the reverse Midas touch.
Yeah.
Anything that I buy just turns to something that I'm not allowed to say on this podcast. But if you look at how people transfer over, really speaking, if they've already got a PC and they're used to using a PC, they've got basically everything they need to transfer already, except for the machine. And it becomes a bit difficult to work out what specifically to get them because, well, you can't say, I'm going to get them an Apple keyboard. Well, no, they've already got a keyboard. They used it on their PC and put it in the Mac.
Right.
I'm going to get them an Apple mouse. Well, again, it's the same sort of problem. They're using the mouse from their old PC. And then it becomes there's good reasons to use an Apple keyboard as a gift, especially in my case, because of the way that they've changed the symbols around on our keyboards.
Right. And also, there's just recently reissued by Apple, brand new Magic Keyboard 1, Magic Mouse 2, Electric Boogaloo, and the Magic Trackpad 2.
Millwall City 4. But even then, they are nice to have, but you wouldn't really consider them to be an essential thing because you're buying something for them that they've already got.
Right. Which is why I was very tickled by your suggestion of a KVM switch. This is such a good idea. For those people who aren't quite clear on exactly what that is, can you?
A KVM switch basically allows you to connect either your Mac and PC or two different systems, regardless of type, to the same set of keyboard, mouse, and monitor.
Right.
So you have a little switch, you press the switch, and you can immediately see what's on your Mac, and your keyboard and mouse control the Mac. You press the switch again, and it switches over to the PC. So you can see your PC, and you can control the cursor and type away using the keyboard and mouse, the same keyboard and mouse.
Right.
You're not having to have a second keyboard and mouse to drag over from the side.
As you say, you can control a single monitor to switch back and forth between the two computers if you want, or you can use a particular keyboard that you really enjoy, keyboard, mouse, whatever, to switch that between the Mac and the PC. So, it works out really well. Very good idea.
When I switched, you can read all of this during the Back to the Mac series of articles that I wrote earlier this year.
Yes, indeed.
You'll find them on MacNN. When I switched, one thing I didn't really appreciate at that time was having a KVM. I still haven't got a KVM. I wouldn't mind having a KVM because at this moment in time, I have got two monitors which both work off the PC and both work off the Mac. I have to go into the software menus on the monitors to do that, to switch between the two. I have an Apple keyboard. I got a Logitech mouse attached to that. And then to my right, I've got, leaning on the computer, a Logitech keyboard, and I've got a Razer mouse near it. So I could do with a KVM, if only for the KM bit and not the V.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately, most KVMs only deal with one video output. It doesn't deal with two video outputs like two screens. Most people who have one screen, it doesn't matter.
Attention to Santa and Malcolm's family. Monoprice.com, perhaps. Just say it. You also talked about parallels, and I, assume similar systems like that as well. There's a couple of others. How is parallels useful to the Mac switcher? Because to me, it's kind of a crutch leaving you in your old system. But I can see, particularly like for Quicken users, I can definitely see why you would want to hang on to your one or two of your PC programs.
Generally speaking, what I found in the most recent attempt at switching is that most of what I do can be transferred over to different apps or even the very same apps going from PC to Mac. For example, if I do word processing, I use OpenOffice because I'm an idiot who likes using OpenOffice. And that's available on both platforms. Yep. Microsoft Office is the same thing. Adobe Creative Cloud, and you have tons of apps, even down to apps where you don't have a direct corresponding version on the platform that you're moving to. You are going to find alternatives. For example, there's Feed Daemon on the PC, and I switched over and I'm using Vienna. And there's multiple other RSS readers out there that I could have switched to, but I chose that one because it looks kind of the same, works kind of the same. I'm fine with that. So for the most part, you're going to find the apps are going to be the same across the board, or you can find something that does the job just enough.
Right. You point out something very interesting, though, which is that programs like Parallels and VirtualBox and some of the others, Fusion, VMware, they can not only run the present version of Windows, but previous versions of Windows and other operating systems as well. One of the great things about the Mac, and a selling point to me when I've been trying to convince really high-level users that the Mac is a better platform for them, it's the only platform that can run all three of the primary operating systems, Windows, Mac, and Linux, all at the same time legally. If you need an all-in-one machine, if you're one of those people who can jump like Spider-Man from building to building from one OS to another OS and be comfortable, well, I'd say a Mac is your machine. One other thing that you talked about in the article was backup drives. And this is really a very good idea. I see this question a lot on various forums about, well, I want to use my old backup drive, but it doesn't seem to work, or I can't write to it. And the reason is because very often PC drives are formatted for NTFS. So I liked your suggestion of, first of all, just get a fresh drive for your Mac backup, but also, even if you need to reuse it, an old one, you're going to have to reformat it, or you're going to have to use a common format like FAT32, so which does limit file sizes. But you came up with an alternative idea that I like very much, a network attached drive, specifically the WD 4TB My Cloud, which not only gives you backup capabilities on multiple systems, but also allows you to access that material online when you're away from home.
Yeah, that's right. I do want to point out that I'm adding backups for two good reasons. One, not enough people actually do backups.
True.
I know that we're going to get comments of, if they're already a Windows user, they must be using backups already, and so on and so forth. They've already got backups there. But at the same time, there's so many people who don't run backups regularly.
Yeah.
And even ignoring the whole switching guide, one thing to suggest to someone would be hard drives are cheap enough, get them a blasted external drive, or splash out a bit more and get them a NAS. Just get them something that they have no excuse.
Particularly with a feature that's built into all Macs called Time Machine. I mean, once you turn it on, that's essentially it. Now, there are other ways to back up, and you can use a variety of them. I use two different methods myself, but Time Machine is the foundation of any good backup strategy because it is so set it and forget it.
Heck, if we're even talking about just having some sort of backup scheme that you just set and forget, I mean, somehow offering to pay for a year's subscription to Backblaze is not a bad idea either.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
I mean, it even eliminates the whole you've got another bit of hardware on your desk.
For people with really tiny desks, there's one less obstacle removed. I certainly think that iOS devices complement the whole Mac system. Now, of course, you don't have to have a Mac to use an iOS device. They work perfectly fine on Windows PCs. But if you've bought into the Mac ecosystem, well, you might as well just, shoot up the heroin straight on and get into the iOS ecosystem as well. It's all one big family, and they work so beautifully together. And so, yeah, a good smartphone and a well-integrated computer system, and I think the Apple ecosystem is just tops in terms of that kind of integration, is a thing of joy. So if you know somebody in your family that is thinking of switching, these are some great gift suggestions for them. If they want to switch but they just haven't, maybe Christmas is a good time to push them in that direction. Particularly with the crazy prices we are seeing over here in the States, at least. Fantastic sale prices on iMacs, MacBook Pros, and Apple Watches in particular. Maybe that's a good 1-2 punch there. Here's an Apple Watch and an iPhone. All right, next up. Best of 2015. Apparently the year is over. Here I thought we had another 20 days, but I'm wrong.
Well, the Apple review process for apps shuts down here in just a couple of days.
Well, that's true. And so they needed to get this out of the way. And although they actually did do nominations for things like ebooks, nonfiction and fiction, movies, television shows, it didn't seem like a very good movie year, I have to be honest with you. Not one of the better movie years. If Mad Max Fury Road is one of the best movies of the year,
just give me a couple of days, man. We'll talk about best movie after the 17th.
Yeah,
right?
Okay, very good. There were definitely some good movies in their list, no question about it. But I'm just saying there are better years and worse years, and I think this was one of the worst years.
Yeah.
Having said that, and I know it's a sort of a conflict of interest, but I agree with them that Pixar's Inside Out was one of the best pictures of the year. It really was very good.
It's a good movie, well executed.
But I want to run down the list of the apps because there are two categories for best of in apps. There's games, because games are so dominant, and then everything else. And for games, the game of the year, this floored me, was Lara Croft Go.
Yeah.
The second place one was Fallout Shelter. A little further down is Warhammer.
Amber was stuck on Fallout Shelter for a while.
Yeah. Most of these games, one of the 10th place one, Pac-Man.
Yeah, Pac-Man 256. Yeah.
Yes. So do you sense my theme here? These are old games.
Well, some of them are. Some of them are old style.
They're rejiggered old games.
Yeah. I mean, even looking at some of these like Sky Safari, Downwell is a very old styled game.
Yes.
Rayman Adventures is a rehash.
Yeah. Marvel Contest of Champions, I mean, it just goes...
No, I'm not familiar with that title to really say anything about
but
it.
It relies on characters that have been around since old people like us were kids. So the...
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I know, right? Just gratuitously make you feel old. But yeah, Pac-Man, that one stunned me. That was amazing.
Oh, well, yeah, but how many times do we have to buy that damn game?
I know, right?
Can you just give me a Pac-Man license at this point so I just get the rest of the titles from here on out? I've given you enough quarters. I've bought the game enough times. I should just have a license at this point.
I mean, we certainly are not objecting to you've upgraded the computer graphics or you've put a new spin on the game or you're writing a sequel or something like that. But a lot of these games are just the old game sort of redone. One of them, my favorite one, Mr. Jump. Oh. Mr. Jump doesn't even have a head.
Nope. Yeah.
They couldn't design a head, so they just give it a big white pixel for a head. I love it. Over on the app side, though, the non-game apps, much better. A much greater variety of stuff. I really like some of these. Enlight was was second place. Twitter's Periscope was the number one. And to me, that's just this year's Vine. But okay, fine.
53's Paper is on there a little bit further down the list.
Yeah, Workflow is really great. But the one that really excited me was what I thought was the first really, truly innovative consumer level business app, and that is Robinhood, which allows people to buy into the stock market. Now, let's for a moment disclaimer that stock market is a lot like Vegas these days. But it is for people to try and grow their savings. And, some stocks do very well. If you ever wanted to get into it, it's actually very hard.
Yeah.
I was talking with a friend of mine about this recently, and she said, I would really love to buy some stock. How do I go about doing that? And I said, well, you take a huge sum of money, thousands of dollars, and take it to a stockbroker, and he takes it away from you. And that's how that works. And she's like, oh, can I not buy one share of something?
Yeah, can I not do that? Yeah.
Technically you can, but no, not really. No. And what Robinhood does is it doesn't buy one share of stock for you. What it does is allows you to set up essentially a dedicated savings program in which you put in money as much or as little as you can, but on a realistic scale, $20 a week, $50 a month, something like that. And when you have enough, it will buy one share of the stock that you want. And they can do it because they're a clearinghouse and they can do it that way. But most stockbrokers just, if you come in with anything less than $10,000, they just laugh at you. And I think that really puts a lot of people off. So although the stock market can be a dreadful investment or it can be a brilliant investment, and there's a lot of if and but in there.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to get into it, but you're not a wealthy person and you're not willing to kill a relative and get their inheritance all of a sudden, you're not going to come into $50,000 tomorrow, then Robinhood is a really great way. And Workflow has also been a really good I think HBO Now is innovative in its own way for freeing us from cable subscriptions. That was great. Airfare predictions from Hopper, another very good app. The personal weight loss coach of Lark takes, I think, a very refreshing approach, particularly compared, for those of you who read our reviews regularly, particularly compared to the Carrot approach. If you know the Carrot apps, then you know what I'm talking about there. And one of the things that I wrestle with a lot is that people still pay attention to the news, and we're grateful for that because that's our business. But very often they don't have a lot of context to work from, and there is an actual app to solve that problem. It takes current news stories and then supplements them with timeline or historical detail, not just where we are at the moment, but like not just that a Kardashian has gotten pregnant, but where the hell they came from in the first place. Why are they famous? That sort of thing. So there's some good stuff in there. Mike mentioned 53's paper, which I love. And I'm not a very good drawer, I have to say, but I really do enjoy it. And there's a lot of, self-improvement stuff in the list as well. But it's a nice diversity of apps. And I hope that people will, if there's nothing else that these apps, Best of 250 lists do, I hope it'll encourage people to check some of these out because they're great. And as usual, we like to wrap up our episodes with an app of the week. And we usually have William Gallagher do it. And so this week, it's William Gallagher again. William, what is your app of the week?
No question. Deliveries 6.2 for iOS. Except I haven't reviewed it this week. The app is pretty much exactly what it was back in April when MacNN's Michelle Elbert reviewed it. I read that then and it kept in my back of my mind, but it popped up in my head this week when a parcel arrived with just my surname on it, Gallagher. We are near Christmas. This could be a present I ordered for Angela, but it could be one she had ordered for me. It was neither of these things, but I couldn't know that, and with deliveries, I could. For when you order anything online, you get an email receipt that includes an order number. Select and copy that. Then just by opening Deliveries recognizes what's on the clipboard and goes, oh yes, been shopping on Amazon, have we? And it prompts you through adding that new order to its own little list. Amazon, Apple, just about anywhere. And if it doesn't recognize that type of order number, you can tell it more details until it does. The first time you do it with anything, Deliveries will ask your Amazon password, say, or whatever. And from then on, though, it will just keep checking for you. All week, I've been opening up this app and looking at a list of 3 or 4 parcels that are on their way, and it shows me when they're due, where they are now. You could get that same information from logging on to the shop you bought the thing from, finding the order number again, taking that to the right tracking service. Is it UPS? Is it post office? And so on. Or you could just open the app and read the whole list. Deliveries does notify you as well when something significant happens, like the item being dispatched. But I have been checking the app so often this week, only once did it have time to notify me. The rest of the time, I've already known because I've already seen the list, because I've already been in the app. This was over Christmas confusions, right? I was being nice here, wasn't I? Spending $5 on Deliveries 6.2 for iOS. It wasn't for me. It was to help my family, wasn't it? So I think I deserve the fact, maybe a little bit, that Deliveries is currently telling me that my iPad Pro is only 2 days away.
Well, that just about wraps it up for episode 44. 44 of the MacNN podcast. How many more of these have we got to do before the year's end? We're not doing one on Christmas, and we're not doing one on New Year's Day for the same reason. So I think we're going to get to 45, and then we're out.
Yep, 45, and
then we're out for the rest of the year. That's not bad for a year, 45 weeks.
The One More Thing podcast will still be running midweek.
Oh, okay. Very good.
So you'll still be getting your podcast fix from the MacNN Podcast Network.
Outstanding. Yeah, because we certainly don't want to leave you hanging. So this will wrap it up for episode 44. I'm Charles Martin. I'm the editor of MacNN, and on behalf of the entire staff, including managing editor Mike just over there.
Yes.
We'd just like to say how much we appreciate you listening, particularly those of you who stayed with us through all 44 episodes so far. Thank you so much. Let your friends know, and we will spread the word, and we'll just keep making tech news because it's a little like potato chips. You can't do just one story. See you next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.